Distinguished colleagues, I rise for a very simple proposition. I left this august body 14 years ago, and I can hardly believe it. But 14 years ago, we were dealing with a budget over in the House of Representatives, where I sat representing the east part of metropolitan Atlanta, a budget that was around $17 billion, $18 billion in 2011. Our budget is now $40 billion. And I just want to put that in perspective because it's where we're putting our money. And I find it odd that I am agreeing with the senator from the 53rd when he said corporate welfare. We really do have the best place to do business. And is it really a requirement that we not address Georgia fighting for last place in literacy in Georgia with Mississippi? I venture to say that our priorities, if we're going to spend all this money, going from about 16 to 18 billion to $40 billion, and then give our people back $1 billion in the form of $250, it's politics, and it's good politics, and I thank the governor for some of the things he's done, but I think we need to put this in perspective. I say that because my time is valuable, like just most of your time is valuable. I live about 22 miles away from here, according to in Stone Mountain. But it is ridiculous for me to spend an hour in traffic every day to come to this place. And I want to say that this budget does not address transit. We are wasting money in Georgia when we spend hours and hours. You can't even go across town at certain parts of the day. You cannot. And we need to at least address transit. That's my primary concern. And I really appreciate the chairman of appropriations. He is a very astute man, and the way he has expounded on this budget, and he's presented it well. But I am very concerned, particularly being in the minority party, Mr. Presiding Officer, that I have a 200-page document put on my desk today. And we spent about 2 days, if that, on a budget. When I was in the House, I think it was 2 weeks. And I want to bring that to your attention. If you're having a meeting in private to go over this budget, that's great. That's fine, that's your prerogative. But I think democracy works best in the light. And I think that we need to have democracy again in America before we become some other country that we did not mean to become. Power is a wonderful thing, but to be intoxicated with power and do whatever you will is a very dangerous proposition. And I would simply argue that we expand the time that we look at this budget. And it's okay to spend at least a week on the budget, not 1 day or 2 days. We had a winter this year, and even the time we wanted to spend, we couldn't spend on it. So I would simply suggest that our priorities are put in perspective to go to more than double our budget, more than double our budget, more than double our budget, more than double our budget. And where is the money going? And I'm deeply concerned because people of the African hue who look like me have less than 1% of some of this money. $40 billion. I want you to examine that. It's something wrong with that. I don't have a problem with corporate welfare to the extent that it's fairly done. But I have a problem with corporate welfare when our children cannot read, when Medicaid expansion, when people don't have simple health care, when people go bankrupt in Georgia because they cannot afford to go to the doctor. People are bankrupt because they have to decide whether to afford their drug prescriptions, rather because they don't have health care. And we have a budget of $40 billion. Guys, I think our priorities, we need to re-examine it. And I stand here because It needs to be said. And I think that we can do better. And I would simply ask that our infrastructure be taken into consideration. The distinguished senator from the 19th and the gentleman that presides over this august body, as well as the governor of this state, because infrastructure development is an economic engine. It can produce more tax revenue so that we can spend $40 billion while at the same time serving the interests of so many who cannot have a voice at the table. There are people, as I remind you, and I sound like a gentleman that I'm on a prayer call every Saturday morning, and he says, remember the caregivers and the homeless. And now I have to drive past these homeless people every day. And I would say it again, there's a reason they're down there under that bridge. There is a reason where there will be more people dropping out of college because a gentleman tries to do an executive order to stop agricultural land grant scholarships to force people to drop out of school when a statute has already appropriated that money, but you're now trying to say because it is under the auspices of a DEI, because it's headed towards some people of color, that you want to cut it out. I think it's not right, and I think it should not go unchallenged, and I think that this august body can do better. We can do better because we are better. Our character is being judged. How we treat the least, the lost, and the left out. It's okay to give our partners, if our leader of this country, of the free nation, wants to give his billionaire people tax breaks and corporate welfare, that's great. But down here in Georgia, we have really hard-working people who are just trying to make it day by day. And just because we can, we should not ignore the interests of health care, education, economic development. And I've not heard one thing about social justice, but social justice helps everyone here. It's a social justice issue when someone can have a job and come back home and feed their families. But if we redirect those monies, there are people that will not be in school, who will not be qualified for the right jobs that this decade is demanding. And they then drop out of the economy. So I would ask this august body to, transit is, as I go to my seat, an economic engine. I remember in 2008, Ray LaHood came down here and offered billions of dollars. And it was not politic to take those billions because of who the president was at the time. I could not believe my eyes. I really could not believe it. They were going to have high-speed transit going from Tennessee through Georgia to Florida. And we turned the money down. And now we are not even talking about transit. This is the 21st century. Let's look at it, guys. I now yield the well. And I just simply say, please consider transit when we look at this budget the next time. I appreciate the building of the roads, and I really want you to go to North Georgia. I will advocate for the 53rd. I find myself in an interesting position. He's saying there is no road to even paint. So, Georgia, let's look at our infrastructure. If it is crumbling, let's address it. I thank you, and I yield the well.